The time for waiting is over. This is your last chance to join the future. Your last chance for the T Initiative.
The year was 2005. The American dream was drunk on cheap credit, and the real estate bubble was inflating to catastrophic proportions. Everyone with a pulse wanted a piece of the action. People were flipping houses like pancakes, terrified of being left behind in the rat race. Into this toxic atmosphere of greed and quiet desperation stepped a brand synonymous with absolute, uncompromising wealth. It wasn't a casino or a skyscraper. It was pitched as a school. Trump University. The promise was intoxicatingly simple. For a price, you could bypass the grind. You could learn the intimately guarded secrets of the world's most famous billionaire developer. It was sold not just as an education, but as a golden ticket, an initiation into an exclusive, untouchable club of winners. But like a shimmering mirage in a barren desert, the closer you walked toward the gold, the faster it dissolved into the sand. The trap was set in the most depressing places on Earth. Windowless hotel conference rooms off dreary interstate highways, from Florida to California. The bait was a free introductory seminar. Retirees hoping to salvage their vanishing pensions, single mothers, and blue-collar workers desperate for a way out. They packed these rooms to the absolute limit. The air inside was thick with manufactured enthusiasm, the smell of cheap coffee, and unspoken financial anxiety. The speakers on stage, wearing ill-fitting suits, promised the audience that they were handpicked by the Titan himself. They preached a gospel of easy money, telling these vulnerable people that the keys to unimaginable wealth were just one credit card swipe away. The first hit of the illusion was completely free, but the resulting addiction would cost them everything they had. The true goal of these seminars had absolutely nothing to do with teaching. It was a sophisticated profiling operation. They weren't looking for students. They were hunting for marks. They were scanning the room for the desperate, the highly gullible, and most importantly, those with high limits on their credit cards. The free class was nothing more than a high-pressure sales funnel, meticulously designed to push the audience toward the elite mentorship packages, which carried a staggering price tag of up to $35,000. Instructors explicitly told people to max out their credit cards, to drain their 401ks, to borrow against their homes. The psychological mantra they hammered into the crowd was brutal. If you aren't willing to invest in yourself, you're a loser who deserves to stay poor. They were selling the ultimate American dream, but at a predatory markup that would make a street corner loan shark blush. If you peeled back the cheap gold foil of the branding, you didn't find Ivy League professors or real estate savants. You found a ruthless, heavily calculated sales machine operating with the exact same moral compass as a 1980s Wall Street boiler room. The so-called instructors and mentors were frequently not real estate experts at all. Investigations would later reveal that many were just aggressive former salesmen, some with histories of personal bankruptcy and fraud. But they were armed with a devastating secret weapon, the Playbook. This leaked internal document wasn't a curriculum. It was a masterclass in psychological manipulation and emotional extortion. It explicitly instructed the staff on how to identify a student's deepest insecurities, map out their financial fears, and then ruthlessly exploit those exact weaknesses to close the final sale. In this room, empathy was a fireable offense. Aggression was the only accepted currency. The sales tactics deployed behind closed doors bordered on psychological warfare. If a potential student hesitated to drop $35,000 because they genuinely couldn't afford to feed their family, the instructors were trained to immediately attack their character and masculinity. They would lean in, lower their voice, and ask, "Do you like being a nobody? Do you want your kids to see you as a failure for the rest of your life?" They used severe, high-pressure isolation techniques. They kept people trapped in small rooms for hours, denying them breaks, wearing down their mental defenses until the victims signed the ruinous contracts just to escape the sheer exhaustion of the pitch. It was financial extraction beautifully disguised as personal mentorship. The only thing being successfully built in these rooms was a crushing mountain of consumer debt. For the elite few who actually sign away their life savings, the promised reality was a bitter pill. They had bought into the illusion of a personal mentorship. They genuinely believed they would have direct access to the billionaire's exclusive inner circle, that powerful men would take them by the hand, walk them through derelict buildings, and show them how to turn bricks into millions. They believed they were buying a lifelong partnership. What they actually received was another 3 days sitting in a different rented hotel room, listening to generic copy-pasted real estate advice that anyone could have printed for free from the internet. And the grand finale? The ultimate exclusive prize was a photo opportunity, not with the billionaire himself, but with a life-size, silently smiling cardboard cutout of the man they thought was going to save them. The greatest, most audacious magic trick of the entire Trump University operation was its very existence. Because legally and physically, there was no university. There was no sprawling campus with ivy-covered brick walls. There was no library. There were no tenured professors. It wasn't even a legally accredited educational institution, a glaring, illegal fact that state attorneys general would soon point out with absolute fury. It was a phantom, a nomadic ghost school that existed only in temporary, cheaply rented commercial spaces and on the pages of slickly produced, glossy brochures. The entire multi-million-dollar operation was a facade, a hollow Hollywood set designed solely to mimic the prestige of higher learning. Behind the heavy velvet curtain, there was nothing but smoke, mirrors, and predatory contracts. As the grueling months went by, the victims slowly woke up to the devastating reality. The golden ticket they had purchased was entirely worthless. The heavily guarded insider secrets they paid tens of thousands of dollars for were nothing more than basic, common-sense knowledge available in the real estate section of any public library. The so-called mentors stopped answering their phones and vanished entirely as soon as the final checks cleared the bank. People who had remortgaged their family homes and emptied their children's college funds found themselves trapped in a terrifying financial abyss. They had absolutely nothing to show for their ruin but a cheap, unaccredited paper diploma that wasn't even worth the ink it was printed on. The American dream had curdled into a suffocating nightmare. But desperation, when left to simmer, eventually hardens into pure rage. Former students, deeply humiliated and realizing they had been masterfully conned by the very brand they trusted to save them, began to band together in the shadows. Class action lawsuits were drafted and filed across the country. The New York Attorney General launched a blistering, high-profile investigation, publicly condemning the entire operation as a classic bait-and-switch scheme designed to rob the working class. The impenetrable golden veneer was violently stripped away, revealing the rotting, termite-infested wood beneath the brand. The man whose gilded name was on the door was no longer viewed as a financial savior. To these thousands of broken students, he was the architect of their complete destruction. When the subpoenas started flying, the legal battle turned incredibly ugly. The defense strategy was a masterclass in corporate aggression. Deny everything unconditionally, attack the credibility of the accusers in the press, and use bottomless legal funds to drag out the process until the victims gave up. Their primary defense was to publicly claim that the students who failed were simply lazy, unmotivated losers who didn't apply the genius teachings. But the paper trail was a completely different story. The evidence, the ruthless internal playbooks, the damning testimonies of former conscience-stricken employees, the towering mountain of identical complaints, was simply overwhelming. The glittering illusion could not withstand the cold, harsh, fluorescent light of a federal courtroom. The brand that built its entire identity on never settling and always winning was finally backed into a suffocating corner. In late 2016, the stakes had never been higher for the brand, and the saga came to a shockingly abrupt and quiet end. To make the devastating lawsuits disappear from the headlines, a massive $25 million settlement was quietly agreed upon. It was a stunning, highly visible admission of defeat for a brand entirely built on the aggressive image of perpetual, flawless victory. Thousands of former students eventually received checks in the mail. Partial refunds amounting to pennies on the dollar for the time, dignity, and dreams they had permanently lost. The massive check was written, the federal docket was cleared, and the Go School finally closed its non-existent doors forever, leaving a trail of broken bank accounts in its wake. Trump University remains one of the most defining and cynical chapters in the dark ledger of modern American business. It was the ultimate unrestrained hustle, expertly selling the sizzle while delivering absolutely no stake to people who were desperate just for a seat at the table. The buildings were nothing more than rented hotel rooms. The professors were desperate, aggressive salesmen, and the promises of wealth were entirely empty. In the end, the only real, lasting lesson taught by the institution was a brutal truth of the modern world. In the high-stakes casino of corporate branding and celebrity worship, the house always wins. And the players are left standing in the dark, holding the empty bag. The ledger remains open.